The most successful coaches never stop learning. They are committed to their personal growth and making themselves better. I'm Colby Donovan, and welcome to the Coaching Coaches Podcast. I'll speak with the world's most respected coaches, best-selling authors, and top business leaders to give you insight into their philosophies, lessons, and mindsets for you to apply to your own life. Head on over to coachingcoaches.co, where you can subscribe to this podcast and join some of the top coaches around the country who also enjoy our regular newsletter. My guest today is David Shaw, head coach of the Stanford football team. Coach Shaw shares how it's been to coach players like Andrew Luck and Christian McCaffrey at an elite academic institution like Stanford, and lessons he's learned working with guys like Brian Billick and John Gruden. Coach Shaw has been pursued by NFL teams and has handled questions about the NFL in a way I really respect and admire. He shares advice on how he thinks about his own professional career and what makes him happy in life, and also a really interesting nugget as to why he was told one NFL team pursued him that I think all of us would be better off by listening to. We don't discuss it in the episode, but last year ESPN did a segment about his brother's battle against a rare, aggressive skin cancer, and the Hail Mary blood marrow transplant Coach Shaw was able to provide him, which saved his life. It's one of the most moving stories I've ever seen, and I urge you to check the link in the show notes to watch and consider becoming a bone marrow donor by going to bethematch.org. Before we get to the episode, I have one favor to ask. Please go ahead and rate this podcast on your favorite app so it helps others find the show. And if you know someone who wants to hear one of the best football coaches in the country, be sure to send this episode to them. Please enjoy my conversation with Stanford football head coach David Shaw. Coach Shaw, thanks for joining me today.
Good to see you.
It's been, I'm sure, an interesting year for you as we look back. COVID started about a year ago. We were just joking about you being back in the football stadium. Hopefully this fall with some people watching you play in person, not all on TV. So hopefully we can get back there soon.
Yeah, we're on the slow road to China there, but it's coming. It's coming. We just got cleared in California for in-person stuff, so we're going to get there.
Yeah, hopefully soon. I thought a fun place to start would be a quote I've heard you share before that means a lot to you and kind of get some color on as to why. Either love your players or get out of coaching. Why does that quote really hit home with you?
Well, I'm a coach's kid, and as a kid, I didn't really understand what it was, but I always interacted with these players that were grateful to my dad. They were grateful, it was college or professional. They were grateful for the way that he helped them in their profession to get better, grateful for the lessons they learned in football. And for me, football's changed so much and coaching has changed so much because it's bigger, there's more money, there's more fame, there's more pressure. So sometimes I believe coaches get into this profession without the same intent. I'm not blaming people per se, but the situation creates, hey, I want to be like that guy. I want to make a whole bunch of money and I want to be a superstar, or I want to be a celebrity football coach, as opposed to many guys like me got into it. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to go GA someplace. I don't know if it's ever going to go anywhere, but I love being around it. I love the sport. But the thing for me is now we're in such great positions as head coaches, coordinators, position coaches, to truly impact the lives of these young people. I've heard it called the second puberty, right? This college years are kind of the second puberty. They grow and learn so much. And it's our responsibility to make sure that that's happening. And it's not just help me win football games or get out. I despise that approach. So for me, you got to love these guys. Sometimes you got to tell them difficult things. Sometimes you got to coach them hard. But when they know it's coming from a place of you caring about them and trying to get the most out of them on and off the field, then no matter how much they play, they always look back and say, that coach positively influenced my life.
You're over at Stanford. It's, you talk about caring about them on and off the field. It's not a Joe Schmo university. You've got guys that are truly going to go out and change the world after they graduate. How do you try to be cognizant of that as they are going through what you talked about, the second puberty, while also demanding a lot from them on the field, while also trying to work so that they know when you do coach them hard, you are coming from a place of love and trust?
Well, one of the things I think that's truly different about this place and our intentions are up front. I tell our guys, I want you to approach school and football and your life the exact same way. Where I think a lot of places, hey, you know what, push school aside, push other things aside. You've got to focus on football. My thing is, when you're doing football, great, focus on football. But whatever you do, you should have great focus on that as well. And I don't want our guys being one-dimensional human beings. So you can be great. And I think we've put out a lot of those. Granted, the really bright stars are obvious, the Christian McCaffreys and Andrew Lucks and Bryce Loves and Solomon Thomas, like some of those great guys that were great academically and great on the football field. But that's our whole roster. I mean, these guys have a chance to be great at whatever they do. And I think embodying that at all times is great for them now. And it's also great for them down the road, because you don't want to teach them, okay, you know what, you want to be great at your job, but you're going to be a bad husband. Right? You have between those two. No, you want to be a great husband. You want to be a great father. You want to be great at your job. You want to be a great son, a great brother. So it's approaching that mentality of being great at whatever you do and never cheapening anything. I don't have to be lesser of one thing to be great at something else. And that's kind of our approach to it.
If I asked 50 guys on the Stanford football team to describe in a few words what the culture is like of the program, what would you expect/hope that they would say?
I think two things. Number one, I think what they would say while they're on the team is one thing, and then what they would say after they leave for a couple of years would be another. But while they're on the team, one of the first things they'll all say is brotherhood. These guys have a commonality, and a lot of them find out they have more things in common with their Stanford teammates than they did from their high school teammates, right? I mean, that's how we found them. They stood out. Like, they can't help it. They stand out academically. They stand out as leaders. They stand out on the football field, and that's how they get to Stanford. And now they come to a bunch of people stand out. And it sometimes sounds intimidating, but it's not. It's actually great camaraderie. So our guys, they bond very quickly. And it's guys from California bonding with guys from Georgia, guys from Texas, guys from Virginia. So I think they'll find that brotherhood that they can always depend on each other and push each other at the same time, and not coddle each other and expect less of each other. But I think after guys are gone from here, they'll say, man, Stanford got me ready to be successful in life. Being around that many bright, intelligent, motivated people pushes you to a level that sometimes you don't even know that was possible. And sometimes you don't even know that it's happening. Like, you don't know how impressive you are on our campus because everybody, until you get removed from our campus and go someplace else. And I've had so many guys that said, I didn't see myself as a leader when I left Stanford, but now I'm in this group and we're starting this company, and I just can't help it. Like, I've now started to become the leader of this group because I can express myself and get people to work together. So I think the process of Stanford, not just the football program, Stanford as a whole, does these guys as they leave, they see themselves as different than other people, which is not a negative thing for other people. It's a positive thing to say, hey, you know what? I can take leadership roles. I can now do what I came to Stanford to do, which is to come in and be something special after school.
You're located down the road from a lot of these companies that are focusing on innovation and disrupting one another and going head to head all the time and continually trying to learn and grow. How do you try to do that yourself, and how do you approach your own professional development? Like, is it this year I'm going to focus on being a better leader? Is there a thoughtful process to that, or is it kind of like, you know what, I kind of want to learn about this today, and maybe I'll pick up a book or pick up the phone and call someone?
So that last one is constant. I'm just always talking to different coaches around the country. If guys call me and, hey, what are you guys doing for training camp? Hey, how often do you guys do tackling drills? And we're constantly doing that. And I've got a good group of friends that we bounce things off of each other, which I trust, and they trust me to kind of challenge each other. As far as me introspectively, I try not to pick one thing. I try to holistically look at everything. Every year after the season, what did I do well? What didn't I do well? What could I have done better? Whether it's play calling, whether it's structure of practice, whether it's deciding when to do what. Hey, we should do third down this period, red zone this period. So I kind of look at all those things every year, and I meet with my coaches and say, what do we think we can do better? I look at our as much as anything. I look at our utilage of our players and their athleticism. Are we putting the right guys in the right positions? Should we be looking at things? So I was fortunate to be with a couple of guys that that did that all the time. Brian Billick. I mean, constant self-evaluation, constant organizational evaluation. I think that's the only way that you can constantly get better is if you're never completely settled. Like, you know what you want to do and you go out and do it, and then you have to evaluate it. Did we do it well? Do we need to change it? Do we just need to do it better? So I do that organizationally, and I kind of do that for myself as well.
How do you balance trying to, I mean, when I think of elite coaches, just broadly speaking, like it's a bunch of, I think, type A competitive. How do you balance wanting to continually self-evaluate yourself with not being too hard on yourself and letting yourself actually enjoy the journey and process over time?
I take an approach to where I'm not one of those, I have to beat you in checkers, I have to beat you in everything. If not, then I'm angry, and that's not me. My competition is purely focused on football, and I think in order to truly compete at football, part of it is evaluating your opponent, finding their weaknesses and applying your strengths to their weaknesses and protecting your weaknesses. Like that interchange is important. But the biggest place for me is I have to say, okay, what am I doing, and am I doing at the highest level? What am I asking my staff to do? Am I putting them in position that they're teaching from a position of expertise? I put them in a difficult position by putting too many constraints on them. Do I need to back off of them and let them do what they do? Or do I need to step in and say, you know what, you don't see it, it's what you want to do, but that's not working, we need to change course. So that's one of those things I think is more important than just, I want to go beat that other team. Like, yes, we want to do that. And we want to, like everything that we're doing today, yes, we're competing against USC and Washington and Oregon and everybody in our conference and Notre Dame, et cetera. Like everything we do every day is competing against them. But in order to truly compete against them, we better know ourselves and better be pushing ourselves and finding out what we do extremely and being great at it. Let's not be good at it. Let's be great at it. So I think the introspective part for me, and there's a thing I bring up Christian McCaffrey a lot. I love about Christian. It really changed since he's been in the NFL. Gosh, he celebrates touchdowns. If it's not a touchdown, he's not looking for the camera, pound his chest. That was a 40-yard gain. He made 3 guys miss. He got tackled on the 10-yard line. He's flipping the ball to the official, and he's coming back to get to the huddle. What's the next play? So for me, that's that embodiment of, I'm not going to get distracted by the small victories, the little things that happen, positive and negative. Okay, great. Let's get to the goal. So like that focus on, okay, what can I do next to be better? I think it's always forward looking for me.
If you enjoy this podcast, I also write a weekly newsletter sharing the best content I found in the last week that directly applies to coaches. Some of the best coaches in the world subscribe, and it's free. So go to coachingcoaches.substack.com or check out the link in the show notes to subscribe. Once again, that's coachingcoaches.substack.com. Let's get back to the episode. How do you think you've changed the most since you first started as head coach at Stanford?
I'll say, since we're talking to coaches here mostly, I'll say something positive and something that's not as positive. Experience is invaluable in that when you're young and inexperienced, a lot of times you have a lot of ideas and a lot of desire, and it's great. And a lot of energy. And as you get older, you're like, okay, that doesn't work, so I'm not going to try that again. That sounded good and it looked, but it was terrible. I'm not going to fall for that trap again. So I think just having more experience of, okay, I've done a lot of different things. We've done a lot of different things. Okay, you came up with that idea. Guess what? We tried that idea 7 years ago and it was, so we're not going to do that. So like having a more streamlined approach to what we do, just based on my experience, I think cuts down a lot of things that could derail us. Because I kind of have an idea of what I want to stay away from. And as much as I give my staff some freedom, I still have to be in charge of the guardrails. I can't just let everybody do whatever they want to do. I have to make sure that we're all going in the same direction and they have some freedom within that direction that we're going. I would say on a negative side, sometimes that mentality can, I wouldn't say make you overly cautious, but start to say, okay, you know what? Let's just stay in bounds here. So even though I just said all of that and I believe it wholeheartedly, every once in a while, I have to say, you know what? Maybe you are right. Let's try that thing we did 7 years ago. Maybe we have a different guy now. We have a guy that does that better. Okay, maybe we'll try that. So that idea of having a great idea of what you want to do and the bounds that you want to stay in, like you can't ever completely close things off because now you may be missing something that makes you that much better. So that balance between knowing who you are and knowing what you want to be great at and working towards it, but then also not putting blinders on that you can't see something else that could help you or something else that might hurt you. So being able to zoom back out a little bit and say, okay, I know what we are, I know what we believe, but okay, maybe that does have merit now. It didn't have merit before, maybe it does have merit now, and being able to at least explore it and then say yes or no after we explore it.
Almost sounds like coaching is a hard job.
Yeah, coaching is caused strife in a lot of people's lives.
Is there an example of you doing that since you've started that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean more specific plays. Like, gosh, I don't like that concept. That we ran that concept for 2 years and we didn't have a high completion percentage on it, and we screwed it up so many times. Let's just get away from it. And then a couple years later, we look at it, I'm like, you know what? Gosh, we've got a halfback now that's a little bit faster than maybe he can get there. Maybe he's a little bit better at that than they've had guys a couple years ago. Okay, let's try it again. So just being open to those possibilities, and typically for me, that's not during the season, but those off season, being able to experiment in the spring, being able to have some ideas in the training camp that maybe you want to take a look at and make a decision on before the season starts. Those are more along those lines.
Something that I really enjoyed learning about you before this is I feel like you have approached your professional journey from here on out very similar to the guy I worked for years ago, Billy Donovan, and that a lot of people speculate, oh, is Billy going to go to the NBA? He goes to the NBA, comes back. When's he going to go? What's he going to do? And he never said, I'm staying at Florida forever. He never said, I'm going to the NBA next week. It was kind of like, I'm going to see what makes me happy in life and go from there. And if that's here at Florida, great. If it's not, then I'm going to move on. How do you think about your own life moving forward? And I'm not talking about like what's a better fit. I'm saying like how do you think about what makes Coach Shaw happy in life year to year?
There's a philosophy that I believe in, partially because watching my dad's career and knowing a lot of coaches and seeing a lot of things happen in this profession, that I live by, that I try to counsel guys to. And I'll use my phrase, and I'll use the phrase that John Gruden used to use. My phrase is, if you have a great job, stay in it. Like that makes everybody's life so much easier. If you have a great job, stay there as long as you can possibly stay there and enjoy it. Gruden's phrase used to be, hey, don't be a climber, right? Don't just be a climber. Like, all I'm doing is looking for the next job. Because sometimes you're 2 jobs down the road and you look back 2 jobs earlier and say, God, that was a great job. Why did I leave that job? Now I'm in a what people would say a better job for more money, but I am miserable. So that idea of you're in a great situation, regardless of the pay, regardless of the responsibility, like being great there. And a lot of people say, hey, somebody will come find you, which is difficult. I mean, you have to know people. You have to get to know people. It's a know people business. So networking is difficult for people like me. And I'm not a big personality guy. I don't like running around shaking people's hands, but you have to get to know people. But the most important thing for your sanity as well as your profession is when you're in a great position and you're enjoying going to work every day, man, just live that out. Because eventually, everybody's going to have that opportunity that looks great, and you get there and you can't wait to leave. I mean, every single day I've known coaches that have a calendar that they're under their desk where they're slashing the days to the end of the season. Like, I can't wait to get out of here. So when you have a great job with great people, those are the days that you enjoy it. Many of us, before we started making good enough money, had a great job and just barely paying the rent and going to work every single day with a smile on our face. Just enjoy what you do and enjoy the people that you're with every day.
I think that is fantastic advice. Can you elaborate on, I've heard you speak on this before, can you elaborate on the reason you've heard why NFL teams are kind of have been interested in you over the years? Because I think it's something that a lot of coaches could think about with how they handle things day to day as well.
Well, I'll tell you something you might not have heard before. I heard this years ago, and I thought it was outstanding. Um, I've never spoken to a person with a job open before. Right, my agent just shields me. He says thank you, but no thank you, and then he lets me know after the fact. There was one GM that after they hired somebody, reached back out and just to say, hey, appreciate you, yada yada yada. I said, congratulations on your hire. You hired a great person. And he said, you know why I came after you? I said, no, I'm curious. He said, I watched every interview for 2 years, the games that you lost. Like every post-game interview, every post-game press conference of those losing games. And I was impressed on how you handled that, how you spoke to the media, but also how you counseled your team. And he said that to me showed leadership, which I thought, wow, that's awesome. And I'm saying that not to let people know they're going to listen to this, how great I am, but that when you're a coach and a coordinator in particular, you're always coaching your team. You're always recruiting your next team, even if you're not talking to them. So in that post-game press conference, like those things that you say, they're going to get back to your team, right? And what tone that you take, what you emphasize. I'm a big believer in praising the team for wins and beating myself up for losses. And I will stand up there and I will take responsibility, and I will also say, hey, you know what? I know so-and-so needs to do that better, and we got to give them an opportunity to do that better. But I think handling those difficult situations is as important, if not more important, than coming out and talking about how great, a 25-point victory was over so-and-so. So being able to handle the positive things as well as the negative things in the public eye, because those NFL teams, I mean, every NFL city, probably at least 20 of them are brutal, but every single one of them, I mean, they live for that NFL team, and it's going to be harsh, and you have to be able to handle those difficult situations.
How did you kind of develop that philosophy to handle those post-game interviews the way that you have? Is that something that's just kind of like, this is who David Shaw is, and this is how I'm handling this? Or did you kind of see that, this guy did a great job with these, and I kind of think that that's the route I want to go down?
I give a lot of credit to my parents, and my dad's handled a lot of difficult things in this profession and tried his best to handle them all with dignity. And I saw that growing up. The counsel from my mother growing up as a kid to make sure that I'm always representing myself the right way, that I'm always representing my family the right way, that I'm always representing my faith the right way, that I'm presenting what I want to present, and having that be authentic. But I don't have to tell everybody what's in my soul all the time, right? So there's that balance between being real, being authentic, and I don't like making stuff up. I'm not gonna BS anybody. I'm not gonna lie. I'm also not gonna tell you everything that I feel, but at the same time, I'm gonna give you what I think I should give you of me. So I think that being authentic is sometimes a challenge in this world because the scrutiny can be so big, and you open yourself up for criticism. And if you put yourself out there and somebody criticizes you, it's not just criticizing a coach, they're criticizing you personally. I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very comfortable with somebody coming after me with slings and arrows. Like, okay, great. Yeah, I put that out there. This is who I am. This is what I think. You don't like it. That's fine. At least I know now, and you know how I feel, and I know how you feel. Great. I have no problem with that. See you down the road. So I don't try to craft my persona, what we say publicly, how I coach my team, how I deal with my family, how I deal with everything. As long as at the end of the day, like, you know what, I stayed core to what I believe, I stayed core to who I want to be, I can go to sleep at night. Right? The results might be difficult. They might not have gone well. It might have been terrible. I might have gotten absolutely ripped. But I said, you know what? I was honest. I was open, and I still what I said. I'll handle that. And I think that's difficult nowadays because I think a lot of people, as they're getting into coaching, they're going to try to craft that persona. And I'll say this too, one of the biggest dangers in our profession is those people that are not authentic because they're trying to be the next Bill Belichick. They're trying to be John Gruden. They're trying to see somebody and try to emulate them in a certain way to get where they've gotten. The hard part is you can't be somebody else that long in those critical situations. And the most important thing that you have as a coach is a connection with your student athletes. If at any point in time those student athletes feel that you are phony, you're done. They're not going to listen to you. They're not going to follow you. They might smile on your face and laugh at you behind your back. To me, and for years I used to always use, always pick two different guys, but I used to always use Bill Belichick and Tony Dungy, right? Guys that are extremely successful. These are Hall of Fame football coaches, and they couldn't be more different personality-wise, but they're both great. Why? Because they're both who they are every single day. And the guys walking in the building, they know what to expect. They know who that guy is. And I think that's important for male coaches, female coaches, whoever, whatever sport you coach. If you are who you are every day and the student athletes can believe in that and trust in that you are being authentic with them, now you have real relationships. Now you can push them. Now you can push them hard because they know that you're not phony. You're not coming at them with all this other stuff. You're being who you are and trying to get the most out of them and the most for them. And now you're a real coach, in my opinion.
Coach, last question before we wrap up. One book suggestion for anybody listening.
I had it was next to me. It's not next to me anymore. There are a couple of different books by, I think his name is Ryan Holiday. And they have a lot to do with mentality. And I tell our guys all the time, when I talk to the team, I don't talk a lot about strategy. I don't talk a lot about X's and O's. I talk about mentality. There's one that I read recently. The obstacle is the way. Yeah. The obstacle is the way. And it's just that mentality of, great, something's in front of you. That's the path that I'm taking. How do I dismantle this thing? How do I get through it? What changes in myself do I need to make to get through this? And how do I handle these things that pop up? So it's really just about mentality and comfort. I also have Marcus Aurelius's book, which I just love every once in a while, Meditations. It's just I just flip it to a page and read about 5 or 6 of them. And it's awesome. So those were 2 I would recommend for people out there.
Well, as someone who was stressed yesterday and binged a bunch of the Daily Stoic podcasts with Ryan Holiday, I love those. So sounds good to me.
My wife is a big Daily Stoic person. She loves those.
I love it. He's great. So, well, Coach, this has been a blast. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the year, and hopefully you have a full crowd for you this fall.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Good to talk to you.
You've been listening to the Coaching Coaches Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform and receive our world-class newsletter in your inbox every Sunday. You can access both of those at coachingcoaches.co. Once again, that's coachingcoaches.co.